All right, everybody, welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we'll be recapping week 9 of the NFL season. Some great games this week. We saw this man, CJ Stroud, kind of light up the NFL. He kind of just took the league by storm. He's just been doing it all season. He's just an absolute beast. He's been fireworks. It's so fun to watch. I'm excited to talk about him this episode. He's our stud of the week. Spoiler alert, but how are you, Josh? We tied on picks again this week, so it's kind of a anticlimactic. But how are you?
I'm doing good. It was a fun week, a lot of exciting games. I kind of say it every week, but again, every week is just weird. Something weird always happens in the NFL. Things don't go as expected, but another crazy week, and there were some absolute studs this week that I'm excited to get into and talk about.
Yeah, we'll just get right into our stud of the week segment because this man, CJ Stroud, just absolutely balled against the Buccaneers. He had 5 touchdowns. He was 30 for 42, 470 yards, and the Texans beat the Buccaneers, and it was just an absolutely electric performance. And anyone that's seen Stroud this season isn't really surprised. He's been doing it all year. He hasn't looked like a rookie. He's just literally been taking the league by storm, and he's just been perfect almost. Like it's that's the only way you can describe him is he's been almost perfect as a rookie.
Yeah, just wow. 470 yards and 5 passing TDs from a rookie. That just broke the rookie passing yards record for a single game and then the passing touchdowns record for a single game. So, CJ Stroud, I think it's time to start talking about it. He's obviously the bona fide rookie of the year, and I don't think it's even necessarily close. And it's time to start talking about CJ Stroud being in that top 10, top 8 quarterback conversation. I'm ready to put him there. This dude, he goes out there, his poise in the pocket. Just the way he runs this Texans team. They don't look like a young team. He looks like a veteran out there, and it's fantastic to watch. And like I said, if you watch CJ Stroud against Georgia last year, you knew this kid was going to be special. And I always like to toot my own horn about CJ Stroud, but he was my number one quarterback coming out of the draft. I was so high on him, and it's all panning out. He's awesome.
Yeah, he just absolutely lights up the scoreboard. He clicks every single cylinder. He's awesome. He checks every box. He's what you want as a franchise quarterback. You love to see it. And we'll get on to our goof of the weeks, kind of the opposite spectrum right now. It's Bijan Robinson. He had 51 yards on 11 carries. He got out carried by Tyler Algier again, and it's just kind of a mess. Not really what Bijan Robinson managers expected, and you have a lot of shares of Bijan, so I'll let you talk about this one.
And here's where I get humbled. I was definitely, a big Bijan guy. Drafted him in probably 4 of my fantasy leagues. So I did. It was 4 of my 5. I had Bijan in it, and it's tough, man. And I don't want to call Bijan a bad football player. I just want to call out Arthur Smith and everyone. But Bijan has just been a goof of the week. He's getting outsnapped by undrafted free agent running back last year, Tyler Algier out of BYU, and it's just pathetic. The Falcons are pathetic, and Bijan is just a goof, and he looks like a goof every week. He's not taking advantage of his targets. He's dropping passes. He doesn't look good. I'm not going to call him not a good football player, but I think the system and everything just needs a big change. And absolute goof in back-to-back weeks for Bijan Robinson. It's painful for us fantasy managers out there.
Yeah, it's nothing really against Bijan the player. It's not like he's looked bad or anything. It's all just Arthur Smith. They just aren't using him well, and it's a real scary sight for fantasy moving forward. It's really just scary for Bijan owners.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably time to hit the panic button on Bijan Robinson unless there's a coaching change. And so for you Bijan managers out there, depending on how your team's looking, I would probably try to unload him. And I'm talking about probably trade him for like an Aaron Jones type player if you could, and maybe a receiver, depending on what the value of him in your league is. I don't think he's gonna perform as bad as he did this week every week, but I think it's time to start looking at other options, and seeing if you can unload him.
I agree. He's not going to be bad or anything. He's probably going to start picking it up here. But the fact that we're in week 9 and we're having the same conversation that we were having in week 1, it's probably time to maybe trade him if you can get someone still.
If you can, I mean, I wouldn't hit the panic button and trade him for a bag of chips because I mean, now's the time that people will. I mean, if you depending on how good your team is, and if you can unload some of your bench players and get Bijan Robinson, it's probably a smart move just to stash him. I mean, obviously you have to start him every week because you probably wasted a top 8 draft pick on him. So I mean, it's tough. It's a rough situation, and I feel everyone else who's in that situation because I got to deal with it in many leagues.
Yeah, definitely tough. But yeah, hopefully Arthur Smith uses our goof of the week more often. But we'll get on to the game recap segments. We'll start off with a Thursday night game. The Titans went into Pittsburgh and lost to the Steelers 20-16. And we were both wrong in this one. We picked the Titans. We were kind of riding on that Will Levis hype train, and he did us dirty. Not that he played bad or anything. I thought he played fine. Derrick Henry played pretty good in this game. But yeah, it's just kind of a typical Mike Tomlin Steelers home grinded out win. You got to respect it. And I did want to shout out Joey Porter Jr. It's his first like official start, and he completely locked down DeAndre Hopkins when they were matched up. He had one catch allowed on 12 yards on 12 targets. So that's kind of just crazy. He was absolutely locked down, and yeah, Joey Porter Jr. has been awesome, and yeah, just a good game. And the Steelers are kind of balling right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like you said at the beginning, nitty gritty, close game. You know, grinded out Mike Tomlin kind of game. You know, let the defense cook, and you know it was a tough game for Will Levis. I mean, rightfully so. He's going up against a hard Steelers defense led by T.J. Watt, and he definitely, you know, after that heroic performance of 4 touchdowns last week and on a bunch of deep balls, obviously he mellowed and came back down to earth. And I mean, he played a good defense. And I'm not hitting the panic on Will Levis. I think that's just a welcome to the NFL type of game right there. And yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I think the Titans will bounce back. I definitely think their best shot of winning is with Will Levis at quarterback. I think it adds another spark and a better dimension to their team than Malik Willis or Ryan Tannehill could. So I think the Titans just got to keep rolling with Will Levis, get him through his first couple starts, get him comfortable, you know, get him rolling in that offense. And you know, great win for the Steelers. And from a fantasy aspect, I mean, this Jalen Warren, Najee Harris is just like the Bijan Tyler Algier we just talked about. Both of those two actually did a little bit better this week. And Najee Harris did get in the end zone with 69 rushing yards, so not a bad week from them. Deontay Johnson, though, Dan, looking like, I mean, George Pickens, what do you think about George Pickens just absolutely fading away and Deontay Johnson just taking this wide receiver 1 role by storm?
Yeah, so wide receiver 1, Deontay Johnson, 7 catches, 90 yards, 1 touchdown on 9 targets. And then George Pickens had 2 catches for -1 yards on 5 targets. So that's a pretty wild stat line. And yeah, I saw Deontay Johnson got his first touchdown in over like a year or multiple years, and George Pickens was looking pretty pissed on the sideline. And yeah, that whole situation was a little bit odd. And considering they won, that the Steelers are a weird team. It felt kind of like a gross game, and they still got the win though. That's just kind of a typical Steelers Mike Tomlin grinded out win.
Yep. They don't ask you how, Dan. They ask you how many, and that kind of seems to be the motto of the Steelers.
Yeah, that's Mike Tomlin's bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
And what were your thoughts on Will Levis watching the game? I thought like he's definitely NFL ready. That was my kind of takeaway on Will Levis watching this game. Is he was always more NFL ready than like draft analysts made him out to be. He's a pretty NFL ready guy, and he's serviceable. He was like making accurate on time decisions and throws. So I like what I see, and I'm excited to see him moving forward.
I saw a lot of preemptive, good on time throws where he was throwing the receiver open, and you know, it was just overall a tougher game against a good defense. And you know, when you're in your second career start and you're not getting those, you know, number 1 reps with the first team all offseason, you're gonna have a little bit of a bumpy start. But I mean, I was actually more impressed than disappointed with Will Levis because I mean, I saw a lot of really, really good on time throwing the receiver open throws, and rightfully or not rightfully so, got criticized for not being NFL ready, and he honestly looks, about as NFL ready as Bryce Young, in all reality.
Yep, definitely. And yeah, he was kind of threading some needles. He made some good tight throws. So you'd love to see that. And yeah, I just wanted to shout out Mike Tomlin. That's kind of my main takeaways. He's a legend, Hall of Fame coach, and he like wills his way into wins for the Steelers.
Yes, he
And you can
does.
feel it.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin has been brilliant for seasons. He'll keep this team competitive even with Kenny Pickett at quarterback.
Yep, definitely. And with that, we'll get on to the Germany game. The Dolphins and Chiefs faced off, and the Chiefs won 21-14. And it was kind of a weird game. I feel like
I knew better. I knew better than to say that the Chiefs would lose two in a row. I just wanted to believe that they wouldn't. I
especially
I knew better.
especially with all you've been saying about how the Dolphins have been struggling against really good teams. You should have known.
Yeah, that's on me, Chiefs fans. I'm sorry. I'm a Charger fan. I did want to see you guys lose, and I wanted to believe that the Dolphins could beat you in Germany, and it didn't happen. And I am wrong, and I'm sorry, Patrick Mahomes, for not believing in you to ever. I mean, you'll never lose two games in a row. You're Patrick Mahomes. You don't do that.
Yeah, the Chiefs got the 21-14 W, but I do want to say like their defense looked really good, but their offense still just isn't the same. It's not clicking fully. Mahomes doesn't look fully himself. I don't really understand it. The second half was terrible. They didn't do literally a thing in the second half, and literally I think I don't know if you noticed it, but Kelsey was just half-assing the whole entire game. I don't know if something was wrong with him, but he was just a decoy the entire game from the very first snap. He was used as a decoy. They were like throwing it to the receiver closest to Kelsey, but they wouldn't throw it to Kelsey. I don't know what was going on, but the whole thing was weird. And the Chiefs still won somehow because their defense played really good against the electric Dolphins offense. So it was a weird game in Germany, and the Dolphins were in Germany first, and they had more time spent in Germany, and they looked like they were the ones kind of taking the hit. So I don't know. It was just a weird overall international game, and that's all.
Yeah, super strange game, daylight savings game where it was early. But yeah, it was weird. Yeah, the way the Chiefs have been winning a lot of these games is weird because, like I said, and it's just weird because the Chiefs don't look like they should be 7-2, in my opinion. They look like they should be worse. But I mean, it's kind of funny because their defense really is stepping up big. And who was it? Brian Cook with his pick six. That was huge. I mean, that probably is what really changed the momentum and the tide of the game to really favor the Chiefs. But I mean, yeah, Kelsey doesn't look the same. Honestly, Mahomes, I mean, he hasn't looked as good, but I mean, no matter what, he doesn't even have to look good, and they somehow just get the job done because their team plays so complementary. It's perfect. It's like if the offense is struggling one year, one couple games, like the defense picks it up, and vice versa for the Chiefs. It's just a brilliant all around coaching staff and everyone that you know they just win. They just got that winning culture to them.
Yep, definitely. And on the Dolphins end on fantasy, you're looking forward to Achan coming back. I feel like he brings a whole new aspect to that offense, a whole new level of electricity. He's every time he touches the ball, he can take it to the house. So I feel like he complements Mostert really well. But Mostert had a good game. He had that touchdown, and yeah, I feel like Achan will be a big boost for the Dolphins. And I don't really expect to see them scoring 14 in really any other game the rest of the season. The
And
Chiefs defense is good.
what do we make out to be that the Dolphins haven't in over a year beat a team that's over 500? Are we panicking on the Dolphins?
That is
Do
a
we,
crazy stat. That's an eye-opening stat for sure. But personally, knowing how good of a game planner Mike McDaniel is, I'm not too worried about the Dolphins. I just think that they'll be fine against good teams. I feel like not in this specific matchup. Mike McDaniel didn't do a great job game planning, but I feel like he'll be fine. I think this Dolphins team is just different. But it is a concerning stat.
yeah, definitely a concerning stat for me. I mean, it's you lose um to good teams and then you really beat up on the bad teams. And it's kind of crazy to me. But I mean, I'm not hitting the panic button on them yet because their talent wise is so good. And it just kind of seems like they fell asleep in this one. Their offense and everyone just fell asleep, and the Chiefs defense, congratulations to them. They really stepped up and made big plays when they needed to.
Yeah, the Dolphins really didn't show it fully at all. And yeah, with that, we'll get on to the next one, the first of the Sunday morning games. The Seahawks go into Baltimore and get dominated by the Ravens, 37-3, and the Ravens are looking really, really dominant. I wanted to shout out safety Geno Stone. He has 6 picks right now. He leads the league in picks. It's pretty crazy. And then waiver wire alert in fantasy, we want to shout out Keaton Mitchell. He was a speedy back. He looks electric. Undrafted back out of Eastern Carolina. He had 9 carries, 138 yards, and 1 touchdown. So definitely put some fab on Keaton Mitchell or he'll definitely be available. So yeah, throw some fab on Keaton Mitchell. He got the majority of the carries over Gus Edwards and Odell. Odell finally made an impact. He kind of was like a workhorse this game. They were feeding Odell, and he had that touchdown. So you love to see that. And then on the Seahawks end, their offenses looked a little bit sus recently. In this game, it just fully came into force. And Kenneth Walker, he was definitely a goof of the week candidate.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Kenneth Walker, George Pickens, both goof of the week candidates for sure. Overall, we just kind of putting Bijan as a goof of the month, really.
Yep.
Just solidified that spot this week. But what a beatdown by the Ravens. The Ravens are a scary team, and I do not want to be playing them. In my opinion, I think they're probably the best team in the AFC right now. And I confidently say that. I mean, Lamar looks fantastic. I mean, just on all cylinders, they're looking good. I mean, and when Lamar's throwing 21 passes or throwing 26 passes and completing 21 of them, and he's running for 60 yards, and the run game's working. You have 4 guys who rush for over 40 yards, and 3 of them rushing for over 50. I mean, that's nitty gritty, hard nose, just wear you out type of football. And it's crazy that they did that to a good Seahawks team and honestly a really good Seahawks defense. I mean, Seahawks fell asleep at the wheel and the Ravens just kept punishing them. So, I mean, crazy game. Geno wasn't playing his best. Kenneth Walker was absolutely irrelevant. I mean, DK Metcalf had 1 50-yard catch, and that was it. I mean, just a weird sleeper game for the Seahawks, and that's a concerning loss to me. I'll say that this is a concerning loss. I know it wasn't their best game, but it is a concerning loss.
It is. It has to be a concerning loss. I mean, their defense has looked better. Boye Mafe is someone that we've been shouting out. He has like a sack every single game this year. He's a beast. But yeah, I don't know what happened. It is concerning. Their offense in general has just been flat. Geno hasn't been the same Geno. And I wanted to go over their kind of a receiving split. It's almost crazy. So Jackson Smith and Jigba had 7 targets, or I guess I'll just go over. So Lockett had the most targets. He had 8 targets and only 3 catches. Jackson Smith and Jigba had the second most targets with 7, and he had 6 catches. And then DK had 4 targets with only 1 catch. So that's pretty interesting split. Only 1 catch for DK, and that's obviously just not acceptable. It was always going to be a tough game on the road in Baltimore, but 37-3 is just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, wild game. Sorry, Seahawks fantasy managers. There's a struggle. On the other hand, if you have Mark Andrews, if you have Lamar Jackson, you're loving life, and Odell Beckham coming out of nowhere. Like you said, 5 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. Good week for Odell. And Zay Flowers was pretty irrelevant this week too.
Are you stashing Odell in fantasy?
I don't think yet. I don't think I am yet. I think I need 1 more game from Odell. I just don't trust him. He can't stay healthy. And I don't know, he's just not consistent enough. It looks like I don't know. I'm not there on Odell. I need 1 more week. I mean, I wouldn't think it'd be a bad if you're, in a deeper league and you have an extra bench spot, sure. But I wouldn't be dropping anyone serious to get Odell.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like he's a dart throw for sure, but he could be a good dart throw on any specific week. But with that, we'll get on to a really, really, really fun electric game. The Buccaneers went into Houston and lost 39-37, and just an absolute barn burner, back and forth, just electric football game. what an offensive performance from both teams, but especially the Texans and our stud of the week right here, CJ Stroud. 5 touchdowns, just so fun to watch. It seemed like every touchdown was just him dropping it into a basket, throwing a dime. He's just absolutely awesome. He made all these receiving options awesome for fantasy. Noah Brown with 153 yards and 6 catches and a touchdown. Dalton Schultz, 130 yards and 10 catches and a touchdown. Tank Dell, 114 yards on 6 catches and 2 touchdowns. And then Nico Collins with the touchdown and 54 yards and 3 catches. That's literally surreal. He had an abundance of fantasy options performing really, really well at the top of the NFL.
Yeah, 3 receivers going for over 100 yards and 4 receivers catching touchdowns. That's brilliant football from CJ Stroud. That's just brilliant. I mean, I have nothing but praise to say for him. That was just so awesome, so good to see. I loved every second of it. It was so fun watching him. And like I said, me and you, one of our, darling teams, our sleeper teams was the Texans this year. They get to 500 on this win. And I don't know. It looks like Jacksonville will probably end up winning the South, but I don't know. Watch out for the Texans to make a run for a wild card, or maybe be a game out of the South. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. But on the other side of the ball, Baker Mayfield played great. It was so close to him getting a win on his game, winning drive, where CJ Stroud was just able to get down there and ultimately ice it on what was just such a fantastic game. But the Bucs played great. Baker Mayfield played surgical, 21 of 30 for 2 touchdowns. Rachaad White, finally, for you fantasy managers, really coming into his own. This is what you wanted to see from Rachaad White. 73 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, and then 4 for 46 through the air. That is just flawless, and that's how you want him to be used. So and Cade Otton, this guy, if you were able to get him in your fantasy league, this guy looks like a bona fide starter, like a plug and play. So depending on what your tight end situation looks like, or if he's still available on your waiver wire, to go get Cade Otton. The dude is a stud.
Both the tight ends in this game just went absolutely off. You said in our preview episode to start Cade Otton, so that was a pretty bold statement, but it ended up being a good one.
that was a bold one, and it really paid off. So listen to me on a week-to-week basis. You might get something.
You even said start him over Dalton Schultz, and Schultz. I saw Schultz was PFF's tight end 6 this week, so yeah, that was a pretty bold statement, and it was right. And they both just went absolutely off. And honestly, watching the game, you said Baker was good, and he was really good. He was kind of willing his way. This was just a back and forth game. Both teams were playing really good on offense, and Rachaad White, though, I feel like he kind of just carried the Bucs. He was just awesome the whole game. He was just kind of just carrying the Bucs. He was just awesome. He looked like the absolute star, and that's really good to see for fantasy.
Yeah, just an overall exciting, fun, high-scoring game. One of the games of the week for sure.
Yep, for sure. And with that, we'll get on to the next game. The Cardinals go into Cleveland and get shut out by the Browns 27-0. Not too much to take away in this one. Deshaun Watson was solid in his return from his rest or whatever it was. Who knows? But he looked solid in his return. He played some pretty solid surgical football, and that was the most Deshaun Watson touchdown of all time. That weird tip touchdown to Amari Cooper that was just a Deshaun Watson touchdown, just weird. And yeah, Amari Cooper is a beast. He's just so consistent, and he's been balling out for fantasy teams all year long. And not too much to take away from the Cardinals. Clayton Tune's rookie debut went about as you'd expect against this good defense.
All right, so not much to talk about for me, honestly. One of the grosser games of the week. Not surprised. I really didn't expect anything much better from Clayton Tune than 11 for 20 for 56 yards and 2 interceptions. Kind of what I expected it to be. We kind of said it would be a bloodbath in our preview, and we were right. The Browns defense absolutely dominated. They're one of the better rosters in the league right now. And the Browns are a scary team. I think they're a team you don't want to play right now. I think they're going to be getting hot. Deshaun Watson's back from his little, like you said, his little mini vacation. And yeah, they have a good defense. They're rolling, and this was just a game where we expected them just to beat the piss out of the Cardinals, and that's exactly what they did. But Dan, what do you make of the Browns backfield with a Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt split? I mean, Jerome Ford getting ultimately more carries than Kareem Hunt, 20-14. I mean, what do you make of this situation? And more targets.
Yeah, so last week I would have told you Kareem Hunt. I would have started Kareem Hunt over Jerome Ford, and I would have started Ford over Hunt like the week before. So it's totally changing every week. And right now you have to start Ford moving forward. Getting 20 carries and 5 catches, that's actually pretty valuable in fantasy moving forward. So Ford's honestly like a must start, and Hunt's below him in like a flex category. You could flex him. It's scarier. But yeah, it seems like Jerome Ford is that guy now, and it's not even a question. Hunt isn't even but they could switch it up again. Like they keep switching it, so it is kind of hard. But I think Ford is the guy right now.
Yeah, definitely a muddy backfield, but I mean Ford with 25 touches to 14, you got to roll with that at the moment. However, Kareem Hunt was the one that was the successor of the getting in the end zone, but it does look like it is. It almost reminds me of like a Nick Chubb. It seems like they like to value Kareem Hunt. It's like that 1A, 1B type of guy, and yeah, you never know on the week, but it does look like Jerome Ford ultimately will probably be the lead rusher week to week. So kind of crazy, kind of crazy.
And all the Cardinals fantasy options were relevant this week, but Kyler Murray is back. He's going to start this next week. So Cardinals fantasy options you could be excited about moving forward. Trey McBride, Hollywood Brown, James Conner's about to be back. So finally, Cardinals fantasy options will be pretty exciting, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Be good to see Kyler back. He's worth a waiver wire shot depending on your quarterback situation because of his, ability to run. But I don't know, maybe they'll start clicking a little bit more on all cylinders, the Cardinals. I mean, they have played at the beginning of the season with Josh Dobbs. They were playing a little nitty-gritty. They only got one win. Of course, versus the Cowboys, of course. But yeah, maybe a little excitement next week from the Cardinals.
And speaking of the gritty Josh Dobbs, it's a perfect transition into our next game. The Vikings went into Atlanta and beat the Falcons 31-28. And Josh freaking Dobbs, this man's just an absolute gamer. No matter where he goes, the Titans last year he had some spot starts and played pretty good. Cardinals on no notice, he played pretty good for them all season. So love to see that. Josh Dobbs does this wherever he goes, and he had 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, coming in for an injured Jaron Hall, and he also led the team in rushing with 66 rushing yards and that big rushing touchdown. So Josh Dobbs just kind of changed the game. He really put the team on his back. It was pretty crazy. It was like a Kirk Cousins Vikings game. They kind of found a way to win, kind of what the classic Vikings do, what they did all last year. They just found ways to win. So love to see that with Josh Dobbs. He keeps them in the playoff race. Justin Jefferson will come back soon. So love to see that for the Vikings. You're actually excited moving forward now. And for the Falcons, it's kind of a disappointing loss. You just lost to Josh Dobbs. So that's just very depressing. And you just maybe involve Bijan more. I don't know.
Yeah, Falcons are a mess. But Josh Dobbs coming in like 3 days prior to this, getting traded, having no idea. I mean, I don't know how you could even go out there and even possibly play with this little of experience with the team. I mean, he was going over there working with the center after Jaron Hall actually had a very good surgical first drive. Jaron Hall looked good out there on his very one and only drive before he got knocked out. But yeah, I mean, what an amazing story Josh Dobbs kind of is. I mean, this dude has been on 4 different rosters since this calendar year. That's kind of wild. That is actually wild. But him getting traded to the Vikings this week and coming in and actually winning and somehow managing the play. And I mean, he put the team on his back. That one fourth down run was incredible. So I mean, shout out Josh Dove. I'll call him Josh Dubs. Shout out Josh Dubs. He is definitely, for like overall, for like from a football standpoint, a stud of the week. That was awesome seeing it. But I think it's time to put Arthur Smith on the hot seat. I think that was you just lost, and then you go over to the other side. You just lost to Josh Dobbs, who'd been at the Vikings facility for 2-3 days, and he went out there and he just made you look silly. And you don't use your offensive weapons right. You look goofy. The Falcons look like a goofy, sorry team, and honestly, just pathetic. I think their coaching is pathetic. I think the way they run their offense is pathetic. The Falcons are too good with too much talent, and a good defense to be. I don't know. The Falcons are weird to me, Dan. I don't know. I don't know with them. I think it's time just to put the coach on the hot seat. I really do.
It's hard because the quarterback situation has never really helped Arthur Smith. And you were calling for Arthur Smith like a week or two ago, and I was a little bit surprised, and it was a little bit bolder. But as the weeks go on, it is kind of looking like his seat's getting hotter as the weeks go on for sure. And it's interesting. I could definitely see him getting fired by the end of the year and them just getting a new quarterback and kind of going from there, because they have a really, really talented roster. Their defense played great, as we've seen, and they have a lot of good talented players on offense. They just can't put anything together. So yeah, I think you're right. Arthur Smith, something isn't clicking. It's weird. And I'm not liking losing to Jaron Hall and Josh Dobbs. It's not great at home.
It's not a good look. It's not a good look. And I mean, the Falcons kind of they're in an awkward spot. They kind of hang around 500, go below 500, and they're just never a really competitive team, but they're a good team, and they got a good roster, and they have good weapons, and I don't know, they just can't seem to put it together, whether that's coaching, whether it is the struggle of quarterback, because they really just haven't had a consistent quarterback, since Matt Ryan. And it's tough. It'd be tough to be a Falcons fan right now, because you're too good to be tanking, but you're too good to just be barely missing out on the playoffs. So it's just not an overall good look, and it's just an awkward spot to be on. And whether that's whatever quarterbacks available this off season, for free agency, or whether you can make a pick on one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, you need to do something, and you need to get new fresh face at quarterback and a new fresh face as offense coordinator, head coach, maybe even defensive coordinator at this point.
Yeah, 100%. And then when you go over to the Vikings again, the Josh Dobbs coming in really does help the fantasy options moving forward. You could be more excited about Hawkinson and Addison. Cam Akers tears his Achilles and he's out for season. So that absolutely sucks, but that does boost Alexander Mattison in fantasy. He had 17 fantasy points this week, so you can kind of expect him to have he's definitely a start now that there's no Cam Akers to take carries away from him. The volume will make Madison a start, and the Vikings options will be better than you kind of expected with Kirk Cousins going down, just because Josh Dobbs he's a serviceable option. He's a dog. He's a competitor. So love to see that.
Did you have a trade with Shane this week where you got Madison and you gave him Akers, or am I?
I did. Yep.
Love to see that. You love to see that. I mean, that just made my day.
Yeah, definitely. We got a little lucky on that one, but yeah. Anything else you want to say in this game?
Give Shane a hateful, hurtful comment in the chat. If you're watching it this far, we'd love to see it. Roast the kid. That's just what we like to see in this chat.
Shane slander in the comments, like always, please. But yeah, we'll get on to the next one. The Rams go into Green Bay and get wrecked to the Packers 20-3. The Brett Rippon show just wasn't enough. It didn't cut it against the Packers, and the Packers look good. Jordan Love looked better. The Packers defense looked better. It's kind of just a gross overall game. I will shout myself out. I said my start of the week for tight end is Luke Musgrave, and he had 3 catches, 51 yards, and a touchdown. So that's pretty gold standard for tight end. So I'll pat myself on the back there. Luke Musgrave had a solid game, and yeah, shout out to the Packers getting the win. But it was against a pretty injury-riddled Rams team.
Yeah, and as you said last week, me and you both agreed on if Brett Rippon plays, the Packers win, and that's exactly what happened. And they struggled. I mean, the Rams looked decimated, looked flat. Brett Ripion's horrible. I mean, if Matthew Stafford's banged up, this is going to be a long season, and it already is looking like a long season for the Rams. But I mean, at least it was a good momentum builder and good much needed win for the Green Bay Packers. And Jordan Love looked good out there this week. He's been on a cold streak. You know, he'd been struggling, and overall, it's just a good great performance, obviously by the defense. Beat the piss out of that Rams offense, and then just what you want to see, from the Packers offense, with Aaron Jones getting 20 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. That's absolutely beautiful for Aaron Jones managers. They've been waiting all year for that. 4 receptions for 26 yards for him. And what a call out by you for saying, start Luke Musgrave. 3 for 51 and a touchdown is gold standard for a tight end. That's top of the list this week.
Yeah, just love to see it. Jordan Love did kind of spread it around. He had a better performance, 20 for 26. You like to see that. Hopefully he can build off of that. But yeah, loved what I saw from Aaron Jones. He looked the part for sure. He definitely did look healthy, and the Packers are just a better team when they lean into Aaron Jones, as we've seen for years. I feel like that's something we've been discussing for years, is they need to just feed Aaron Jones more, get away from AJ Dillon, because you can visually see it every time you watch the Packers. Their team is just much better when they get Aaron Jones going. So like to see that. Hopefully the Packers will start to build this momentum.
Absolutely. But overall, gross game, but good for the Packers to get a confidence booster.
Yeah. Overall, a pretty gross game, but we'll go on to the next one. The Bears go into New Orleans and lose to the Saints 24-17. And my takeaway in this one is Taysom Hill is the greatest football player of all time. He just does everything. He passes touchdowns, catches touchdowns, runs for touchdowns, probably kicks for touchdowns back. It's crazy. He does everything, and you love to see it. I feel like you could start him in fantasy confidently every single game the rest of the season, and as a quarterback, as a tight end, as a flex, as a running back, in any slot, and he'll probably exceed his projections, and he'll be a pretty good start for the rest of the season. He's just so involved in the Saints team, and they've started playing better. Their offense has looked a lot better when they started involving Taysom more, and it looks like it's going to continue. The last 4 weeks, he's just really been a huge part of their offense, and he's a baller. He really is.
The ultimate gadget player. I mean, what Tim Tebow was thought to be, Taysom Hill is. And I mean, Taysom Hill, 1 pass for 3 yards and a touchdown. Taysom Hill, leading rusher, 11 carries for 52 yards. Taysom Hill also catching passes, 4 receptions for 13 yards and a touchdown. And that is just the most ridiculous stat line. Dude also, I think, plays special teams, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, Taysom Hill is just like the ultimate gadget of this generation, and the offense is better for it. They succeed when Taysom Hill is out there. He makes plays, and he goes out there, and he's exciting to watch. And I mean, obviously it was a game they definitely should have won against a banged up Bears team with Tyson Bagent. But honestly, Tyson Bagent did struggle. He did struggle, but I mean, I don't know. I honestly feel like he does give the Bears almost a better chance than Fields in like a sense. I mean, I mean, 3 interceptions is brutal, but I mean, 18 of 30 for 220 and 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Not his best game. It is a tough Saints defense, but I mean, this team is very banged up, and I don't know. If you're a Bears fan, I'm sorry. It's a brutal season for you. It really is.
70 rushing yards from Bagent. He did his best Fields impression. That's pretty impressive. But Fields is going to be back this Thursday night, so I guess you don't gotta watch any more Bagent. It's going to be Justin Fields this Thursday, so that should be pretty exciting for Bears fantasy options moving forward. I did want to point out Cole Kmet. His first touchdown catch was just absolutely absurd. He had 2. He's been just absolutely balling. Love to see that. He's been a fantasy football still, and yeah, for the Saints, their whole offense, especially Chris Olave, is looking really good.
Oh yeah, tough game for the Bears, but yeah, I mean, getting Fields back next week, hopefully that elevates the team. But shout out to Tyson Bagent coming out of nowhere and at least being competitive, getting them a big win against the Raiders. But yeah, it looks like that era is coming to an end, and shout out to the Saints getting above 500, and obviously beating a team that they definitely should have beat. And Taysom Hill, just if he's somehow available in your fantasy league, get him. And if you can put him at tight end, that is a cheat code.
Yep, Taysom Hill is a cheat code. The Saints are really figuring some things out. You love to see it. We'll get on to the next game. The Commanders going to New England and beat the Patriots 20-17 on the road. And this one kind of went exactly how I expected personally. It just was a kind of a gross game. And in the end, Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson made a pretty big play to prevail. It was kind of gross. Like one touchdown kind of decided this one. And yeah, I don't know. There's not too much to really break
I know
down.
it's
Just
not a lot of
Ramondre is good.
not a lot of takeaways in this one. Just kind of the outcome you thought it would be. Just not a lot to talk about. I mean, yeah, Sam Howell, they got it done. These teams are both below 500 right now. I guess we don't get to call them the Redskins this week because they did win. But yeah, overall, just Mondre looked good. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, studs for sure. Brian Robinson, not his worst game, not his best game, but 18 for 63 and a touchdown with 3.5 a carry. That's not horrible. But yeah, just kind of a interesting game. Not too exciting. Not too much happening in this one. 20-17. Kind of thought the Commanders should win this one, and they win by a field goal.
Yeah, and Demario Douglas, I did tell everyone to start Demario Douglas. He had a pretty good performance. He led the Patriots in receiving, and I think you can start him next week, and he'll have a pretty good performance as well. He has a good matchup, so I like Demario Douglas moving forward in general, and he's about the only option on the Patriots you're looking forward to, other than Ramondre, who kind of gets saved by having some really big plays because he's just a really good player. And other than that, like the volume isn't even really there. So even he is scary. And the Patriots are gross, and they can't even beat the Commanders at home, man. It's not the same old Patriots.
Nope. No, defense is definitely not playing up to the standard that they were. And they're just offensively, they just outside of Ramondre Stevenson, I mean, they're a bottom tier team in offensive weapons. And they definitely this year got to go invest in some wide receivers. I mean, when Demario Douglas is your number one, it's not good. It's not good. And they need to go, whether they have a top draft pick or go spend big in free agency. They need to maybe stop focusing on tight end so much and go spend some money on a true alpha wide receiver one.
Yeah, and yeah, their defense is just not good enough as well. 325 yards allowed by Sam Howell. It just isn't going to cut it. So yeah, just not the same old Patriots. They got a lot to fix, and yeah, the Commanders they got the W on the road. So respect. Nothing really too much to take away though in fantasy. Nothing changes too much, but we'll get on to the next one. The Colts go into Carolina and beat the Panthers 27-13. Their defense kind of shut me up big time this week. They kind of just took this game over and won this game. They were kind of the reason the Colts won this game. They dominated Bryce Young. So shout out to the Colts defense for shutting me up. I said they were a complete pass funnel defense that was just one to target in fantasy, and they have been allowing a lot of points this year. But yeah, they did really show out this week. Kenny Moore got 2 pick sixes against the rookie Bryce Young. So you do love to see that. The Colts kind of ground and pounded it. Jonathan Taylor looks back. He looks awesome. And yeah, good road win by the Colts.
Yeah, good statement win for the Colts. Beat up on Bryce Young. I mean, yeah, Bryce Young throwing 3 interceptions. He definitely regressed from last week's win over the Texans. But yeah, the Panthers they're flat, and it's too bad. We were kind of saying that they needed to look for a receiver before the deadline, and they didn't get anything done. I mean, Adam Thielen is a good solid veteran option, but it seems like they need a little bit more juice. Maybe they need a big time threat that can get downfield. But yeah, the Panthers just look like one of the worst teams in the NFL, and the Colts took advantage of that. And Kenny Moore, probably the defensive stud of the week, 2 pick sixes. That's nuts. He scored more than the whole Panthers team had. So crazy game. Good game from the Colts defense. And yeah, I mean, just a rough outing for Bryce Young and the Panthers.
Yep, definitely. And in fantasy, you see Josh Downs get hurt. That's absolutely scary. You hate to see that. Hopefully he's okay. I don't have an update, but if that's serious, that's pretty heartbreaking. Josh Downs is awesome, and Michael Pittman, he's a real option. He's been awesome all year, and he's a must start. I'd target him if you can trade for him. I've been trying to trade for him in just about every league I have. And yeah, on the Panthers, Adam Thielen has a rough week. Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders still have a split, but it is Chuba Hubbard favoriting it. It's pretty gross. Gross fantasy options in general.
Yeah, don't love any of the fantasy options. Hopefully we can get an update on Josh Dobbs here soon. Hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully it's not season ending. But yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then you should go out and you should try and target Michael Pittman as much as you can, because I mean he's going to be an absolute steal. Jonathan Taylor looking like he's really taking over the RB1 role, kind of fading Zach Moss out. And then the Panthers, Adam Thielen, more of a disappointing week, but that was just the offense in general. So yeah, not too much to take away from this whole game. Just overall underwhelming from the Panthers. Just a horrible outing by Bryce Young this week, and hopefully we can see a bounce back next week.
And like you said, if you really need to start Zach Moss, you can, but I think you can probably fade Zach Moss. I think you can probably just get away from Zach Moss in fantasy, and we're probably at the point where Jonathan Taylor is just the Colts guy.
Crazy saying that, because I think Zach Moss is like running back like 6 in fantasy still.
I think he's RB4, so it is great.
I'm going to confirm this really quick. It's kind of nuts. Zach Moss. No, he's position ranked 6 in PPR.
6. Okay. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, if you had told me that Zach Moss is position ranked 6, what are we, 8 weeks into the season now? 9 weeks?
No.
9 weeks. I would be laughing at you.
It's hilarious. I don't think it's gonna last. I think it's over. But we'll get on to the next one. The Cowboys go into Philadelphia and lose to the Eagles 28-23 in a super close game. It could have easily went either way. It went right down to the wire, literally. And yeah, CeeDee Lamb, absolute beast. AJ Brown, absolute beast. Both showed out in this game like we predicted, and kind of showed off. And yeah, this was kind of just a controversial game. It kind of went down to how you think the last few plays should have been called. That's kind of how this game was. So yeah, that didn't go the Cowboys' way, but the Eagles look good and they got a good team win. They're a really good complementary football team right now.
Yeah, I mean, it literally came down to the last play. I mean, that's how close this game was. Both teams were playing their tails off. And yeah, I mean, the game just seemed to favor the Eagles a little bit more. And it's kind of crazy to say. Did any of us hit on our picks this week? I'm not sure if we did. But just an overall a crazy week. The Eagles, it seems like the Chiefs, they've kind of earned that right. Seems like the ball just kind of falls in their court more a little bit. But I mean, no slouch to the Cowboys. They played absolutely great. You'd love to see CeeDee Lamb. The dude is an absolute menace out there. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, 11 receptions, 191 yards. He's just absolutely feasting against that secondary. And I mean, from a fantasy aspect, Jake Ferguson out here, I mean, just really, really becoming a true alpha tight end. And you called this earlier in the season. You said get Jake Ferguson on your roster. He looks like a better version of Dalton Schultz, and the Cowboys are utilizing him. So if you would have listened to Dan, you're benefiting from that.
Yeah, 91 yards on 7 catches and a touchdown for Jake Ferguson. So he's a real tight end option moving forward. You love that. And the Cowboys offense is just starting to click. They didn't obviously look as good this game, but the Cowboys offense is something to target in fantasy moving forward. They're playing a lot better, and yeah, just not enough in this one. It was a pretty good game from the Eagles. DeAndre Swift, 18 carries, 43 yards, a little bit rough on the ground, just kind of exemplifies this matchup. Just kind of a good division battle. And yeah, any other takeaways in this one?
Oh, just a tough loss for the Cowboys. And like we said, it came down to the final play, and the ball just landed in the Eagles' court more. And they're probably these are probably 2 of the most complete teams in the NFL, and we could see these guys battling it out in the playoffs.
And you asked about our underdog slips. AJ Brown didn't hit his line. He had 80 yards, so he only got the 66. He didn't hit his, and then Tyreek Hill somehow didn't score in Germany. So that was pretty crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say just brutal week for our picks. It felt like bona fide locks, but whatever wizardry that is in these bets is nuts. I don't know how they have these wizardry things, but they do.
Felt like locks, but I will say mine hit again. My Alvin Kamara one hit, and I haven't missed yet on my podcast locks. I haven't missed yet, so I guess I got that going for me at least. That's about it. My
Gotta listen to, if you're putting money on it, listen to Dan and these locks because they're locks.
definitely. But we'll get on to the next game. The Giants go into Vegas and just get wrecked. 30-6. Antonio Pierce gets the W against the team he actually played for and the team he got a Super Bowl with. Kind of cool, but yeah, the Raiders just kind of played more. They played harder, and when Daniel Jones got hurt in this one, you kind of knew it was over. I picked the Giants, but I kind of feel scammed because I didn't know that I was picking Tommy DeVito against the Raiders. But yeah, just shout out to the Raiders. They got it done on at home. Aiden O'Connell looked good. Max Crosby is literally insane. Every single week he's going to get 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles and just keep his team in it. It's crazy. He's so relentless.
Yeah, an Aiden O'Connell versus Tommy DeVito game. Absolutely brutal for NFL fans to watch this. And yeah, definitely robbed when Daniel Jones got hurt and Tommy DeVito had to come back in. Just an absolute beatdown. And like we were even saying, it just felt like, even with Daniel Jones playing, it even felt like just a trap game where like Raiders get a new coach, they fire it. It's just, they're going to go play their tails off. And that's exactly what they did. And luckily they got to do it against Tommy DeVito and absolutely murder and maul him. Max Crosby, just the most relentless player in the NFL. I mean, no one wants it more than this dude. And it's just obvious watching him play out there. But I mean, disgusting game, but I mean, any takeaways from it? Giants were kind of just irrelevant. Everyone on their team was pretty irrelevant besides Saquon, who still actually managed to do good. 16 carries for 90 yards and then 3 receptions for 23. So he stayed relevant. No one else really on the Giants. I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson did score. And then that was pretty much it from their side of things. And then Josh Jacobs, bounce back game, 26 carries, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then through the air, he actually didn't even get a reception, but definitely got it down on the ground this week. And fantasy managers been waiting to see that for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, Saquon and Josh Jacobs both just went absolutely off. They were kind of the story of this game, like we predicted in our preview episode as well. They the running backs in this game kind of just took over, and Saquon is the entire Giants team. I feel like moving forward in fantasy, Tyrod Taylor should be the Giants quarterback, and I think that is the best for the Giants fantasy options moving forward. So there at least there's that with the Danny Dimes injury, and yeah, for the Raiders, you like to see Josh Jacobs getting more involved. Hopefully Antonio Pierce has them playing harder, I guess, but the Devontae Adams situation is still a complete gross mess.
Yeah, I was gonna just point that out. Devontae Adams, 4 receptions for 34 yards. Given it's Aiden O'Connell throwing to him, but I mean, this is just brutal. I mean, let's go over Devontae Adams' last few games. 4 receptions for 34 yards. Against Detroit, 1 catch for 11 yards. Against Chicago, 7 for 57. Against New England, 2 for 29. Against Green Bay, 4 for 45. I mean, against the Chargers, 8 for 75, and that was his last decent game. I mean, it's just, and Devontae Adams has not scored a touchdown since week 3.
Not even like him. It's just unacceptable. Jacoby Myers is like taking over for him. It's just crazy stuff. Aiden O'Connell like didn't even look at him. I don't even understand why they didn't trade him. It's silly. That's another thing. Is like, well, why didn't they trade anyone at the trade deadline when they didn't even have like a GM or a coach at that point because they fired them. They fired them like the night of the trade deadline. So I don't even know if they had anyone to take calls for trades. Like the Raiders are just such a mess. I don't even know what's going on.
I do know like the Jets, and there was one other team aggressively pursuing. I mean the Jets, given because Aaron Rodgers, of course, and they're trying to salvage their season, but crazy. I don't understand. Like, what does it hurt? Like, obviously, at this point, if you're the Raiders, I mean, I would even consider calls for Max Crosby to see if you could get 2 1s or 3 1s for Max Crosby at this point, and get Devontae Adams' trade value is not going to be worth much at the end of the year with this terrible year, and he's getting up there in age. So at this point, if you could get a second and a fifth or something, that'd be worth it. You gotta, I think, at the Raiders. I mean, given they just got a new coach and they have a statement win right here, but why hang on to players that you're ultimately going to be losing and not getting half the compensation for?
Yeah, 100%. And but that we'll get on to the next one. And we'll go on to the Sunday night football game. The Bills go into Cincinnati and lose to the Bengals 24-18. And the Bengals are fully back. They look awesome. Their defense looks awesome. Joe Burrow especially looks fully back. He looks like one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL right now, if not the best quarterback in the NFL. He looks awesome. Surgical stuff, just classic Joe Burrow. He looks just like he really does look like the best quarterback in the NFL. Then now that I think about it, he looks just comfortable in there, so just surgical. Every decision he makes is so clinical. He's awesome. I love Joe Burrow, so accurate. He's been playing awesome as of late. T Higgins gets involved, 8 catches, 110 yards. He looks a lot healthier, so you love to see that. Joe Mixon has a touchdown, so great stuff from the Bengals, and then on the Bills end of things, it's a little bit scary. They've looked a little bit suspect the last few weeks, offensively and defensively. They just haven't looked like too scary on really any side of the ball. James Cook getting 20 yards and 6 carries is kind of a problem. James Cook has been a struggle. Their run game in general has been a struggle. Hopefully Leonard Fournette can maybe boost it, but yeah, it's a little bit scary. Stephon Diggs and Dalton Kincaid have great games, but Gabriel Davis 0 catches, 0 yards. It's not enough. Yeah, just a little bit scary for the Bills.
Yeah, it is. It's the fact that the Bills are, I mean, they're still above 500, but they're 5-4. I mean, it's kind of is weird. It is weird. It's just the Bills are just like a emotional roller coaster right now. It's just up and down and up and down and up and down. You don't know what version you're going to see of the Bills week to week. And then on the other side of the ball, the Bengals starting out 0-3 and then going 5 straight is absolutely crazy. Joe Burrow, like you just said, arguably looks like the best quarterback in the NFL right now. He makes throws, he makes them on time, he gets the job done, he looks cool. He's Joe Cool. He looks like Joe Cool right now. He's just out there and he's getting it done. So absolutely love to see that. And yeah, the Bengals are rolling and they're looking like a scary team and on all cylinders of the ball. And then the Bills, I think it's one of their biggest struggles is just their lack of run identity. They just don't have that run. And it kind of reminds me of my beloved Chargers, but you just can't get the ball. When teams can't take you seriously on the ground, then they can send the house and they can drop everyone and there's nothing you can do about it because they know your run game's not doing anything. And I think the Bills, whether it's their offensive line and whether they need to get better run blockers or, better running backs, they have no identity there. And that's ultimately, in my opinion, what just seems to be the biggest kryptonite for them.
Yeah, definitely. And for the Bills, you have a Kincaid out targeting Stephon Diggs. I'm honestly just realizing that. So Kincaid, wide receiver 1.
I absolutely love to see that. Finally, this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been, freaking screaming from the heavens is get Kincaid involved. The dude is just a dog. And 10 receptions for 81 yards is just awesome. That's what I want to see from him every single week. And I think Josh Allen, he's kind of becoming a safety blanket for Josh Allen over the middle. And like we always said, Kincaid is like Travis Kelce. He just has a knack since college, just for finding that soft spot of the zone. And he just gets open. And, hopefully we just continue seeing this. It's been back-to-back weeks, and I hope it just keeps rolling.
Yeah, you've just been an awesome, safe option for Josh Allen. In fantasy, you just love him. Like moving forward, you can start him every single week in the tight end or flex spot. Honestly, like he's awesome. I love Dalton Kincaid, and moving forward, you kind of start all the fantasy options in this game. Like everyone on both these teams is awesome. Both these offenses are just fireworks. So not too much to discuss fantasy wise.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, everyone's fireworks usually on these teams. Definitely, we're in a weird spot for the Bills. Are you panicking a little bit on the Bills? Do you really think these guys are what they're made up to be? Are they just a middle of the kind of barrel team? Are we what are our thoughts? I don't know. It kind of I'm worried about the Bills.
That's a hard question because I'm a little bit worried as well. They don't look like the same Bills. They do look kind of off. They look different, and I'm not very confident that they're gonna just fire and click on all cylinders. I don't really think they will, but it's the Bills, so you kind of have to expect them to figure some things out and do better. I think they'll improve, and you don't have to like trade them away or be too worried about Bills fantasy options.
I mean, for the East, are you at this point of the season? Are we picking the Dolphins or the Bills to win the East? Just a way too early prediction right now in the middle of the season. What are we thinking? Who are we more confident in?
I mean, you have like it sounds like you have to say the Dolphins, but then you think about when they played each other, you know what I mean? Like head to head. I feel like it's the Bills head to head, especially in that specific matchup. But I think the Dolphins will probably win the division this year.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I am picking the Dolphins at this point of the year to ultimately have the better record, even though I feel like the Bills play them better when they play each other. But yeah, I am hitting I am worried about the Bills. I am kind of panicking. I'm not gonna fully panic till next week, but right now I'm panicking. Like right here. Panicking right here.
Yeah, definitely a situation to monitor. Monitor the Bills. Hopefully they can improve moving forward. But we'll get on to the last game of the week, Monday night game. The Chargers going to New York and beat the Jets 27-6. Josh's Chargers. I guess before I let you talk about your team, I'll just talk about the Jets defense. Like the Jets defense is the most amazing defense I've seen. They're probably the best defense in the NFL right now, maybe top 2 or 3. They're incredible. And with all that being said, like as you can clearly see in this game, as great of a great defense that you can have, it doesn't matter if your quarterback is just so inept that you can't even have an offense. A great defense doesn't prevail that situation. So I guess this game kind of proved that offense outweighs defense.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets defense is just nitty gritty. I mean, when you hold Justin Herbert to 16 for 30 for 136 yards and no touchdowns, and you still lose 27-6, it's like you got a problem. you got a problem because you got the best defense, and especially passing defense statistically in the NFL, and you're going against the worst passing defense in the NFL. Statistically, the Chargers are ranked dead last, giving up the most yards per game in the NFL, and you can't even score a touchdown. Like you're that bad. Like you're that bad on offense. Your quarterback is that bad. And I mean, this guy's been bad since he was drafted. I mean, it was obviously when they brought in Aaron Rodgers, they had finally given up on him. And then somehow Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles 6 seconds into the NFL year. And I don't know. I think at that point, they, like we were calling from everywhere saying, Jets fans, Jets ownership, Robert Saleh, who is just a Zach Wilson apologist. At this point, it's just pathetic. It's like you guys could go out and could have gotten Jameis Winston. You could have probably traded for a Kirk Cousins. You could have, at this point, gotten a Josh Dobbs. You could have done anything, and to keep this team in playoff consideration. And I think the Jets are just in a scary spot. I mean, you have, the best defense in the NFL, and you have the worst offense in the NFL, and it's crazy. It's crazy, but. The Chargers, once they were up by 14 points, you just knew the game was over. They had that kick return touchdown, then they marched down the field and, got in the end zone with Austin Eckler, who ended up having 2 touchdowns. So good fantasy day from Austin Eckler. Absolutely brilliant performance for the Chargers defense. Of course, as we talked earlier, don't mean to bring up my fantasy team, but the Chargers defense ended up scoring 32 fantasy points for me and ended up I needed 30 points to win, and they ended up helping me beat my fantasy opponent. But the Chargers defense was definitely a stud of the week. I mean, they had 8 sacks and 3 forced fumbles and 0 touchdowns allowed. So big week from the defense. Tuli Pelotu, got to start taking him serious for defensive rookie of the year. I've been saying this. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack both double sack games, strip sacks too. So just an overall good defense performance from the Chargers against the Jets' really anemic offense.
Yeah, double sack performances from Bosa, Mack, and Tuli Peloto. You absolutely love to see that. They balled. The Chargers defense in general deserves a shout out. They've been playing great all year, really, the last few weeks. They've been playing really good, and this week they kind of dominated, obviously, against an offense like you said. You just didn't even really like have a fear in your mind, like in the back of your head, that the Jets would score. Like I didn't think at all. Like I didn't take them seriously to score a touchdown. I genuinely would have been shocked if they scored a touchdown. The thought of that just felt unrealistic and impossible during this game. That's just like what we're talking about. It's just punt, 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 like 20 punts for the Jets. It's bad football, and it's painful to watch. It hurts to watch. I don't know how they can just keep this going and not switch it up.
Yeah, it's pathetic to watch at this point, and everyone can see it. And I blame Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas for just this weird mentality of we picked the right guy and we don't want to admit that we screwed up. It's just like, go get Josh Dobbs. Go get a veteran that can win you games and can put up points. I mean, this Josh Dobbs went over to Minnesota, and I mean, won Minnesota a game, learning the playbook in 3 days. It's just like, if the Jets had a quarterback that was, somewhat competent and could just go out there. I mean, for the Jets offense, you're just hoping for the defense to put you in field goal range, the defense to force a turnover, or for Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson to make some crazy play. And Breece Hall, he couldn't break anything today. You're waiting. I mean, the Jets have scored one touchdown in the last 2 games, and it was off of a 2-yard screen pass to Breece Hall, who ended up breaking, I think, 4 tackles and taking it to the house. And so that's just kind of your offense, and it's pathetic. So, I mean, changes should have been made. I think it's now too late to do that at this point of the season, when you should have traded before the deadline. But I mean, I don't know if there's any veteran quarterbacks that, you can pick up off, free agents, whether you pick up Carson Wentz or somebody like that. Definitely be worth it for Jets fans. But good statement win for the Chargers, 27-6. 2 teams that you definitely should beat. You get to 500, and you look forward to next week, and hopefully you can ride that momentum into a big Lions game. But crazy game, kind of how we expected it to go once the Chargers got up 14-0.
Yeah. Honestly, like not too much to say on this game in respect to the Chargers. They took care of business on the road. Tough Jets team, tough Jets defense, obviously. But yeah, the Chargers kind of dominated, and the Jets offense can't be taken seriously. They haven't been taken seriously. We've been a broken record really every single recap episode for 9 weeks now. We've been saying the same thing. The Jets need to sign a quarterback. It's obvious. Anyone with eyes can see it. And Robert Saleh apparently does not have eyes.
And the Jets quarterback is, I mean, this is just a fun stat. For every he's scoring 1 touchdown for every 2 turnovers. So, I mean, CJ Stroud, to put in to perspective, threw more touchdowns in 1 single game than the Jets have passing touchdowns this season, 9 weeks into the season. CJ Stroud did it in 1 game.
It's not acceptable. Not okay for a New York fan. I feel bad. I feel really bad.
I know. I feel bad for New York fans at this point, because I mean, that defense is a Super Bowl caliber defense, and they got some real offensive studs.
Yeah, I'm gonna get depressed talking about this too much. Honestly, we really are broken records. The Jets need to do something. Their defense is too good for this. But yeah, it was fun recapping all these games. Fun game tonight on Monday Night Football. Good statement from the Chargers. But yeah, thanks for joining, Josh. And yeah, fun week 9.
Yes, sir. Can't wait for next week.
All right, peace.
Peace.